I got to tell you that song that Jamie wrote, for me, had a personal epiphany years ago. And so hearing it again today, I just give God bumps all over it. It just blesses me with that decision. I made a number of decisions that were based on that song. I was in a not-so-good relationship that needed to change. And when I heard it, it was like, oh my gosh, I wasted my minutes. And I was in the School of Ministry at the time still, or maybe somewhere around the internship. Feeling like I was hiding out and playing small. It's like, oh, I'm wasting my minutes. Like that song changed so much for me. And every time I hear it still, I just get that place, you know? So thank you. Thank you for bringing it today. Juliet Borster, through Sherry Uzel, did such a good job at setting up my talk that maybe I'll just shorten it up a little bit. If you don't know who Juliet Borster is, she's our friend who lives in England, and she's my daughter-in-law. She's my pseudo daughter-in-law, because her wife, Mary McKay, is my very best friend. And she calls me Mom. The thing is, Juliet and I are on a very similar wavelength of how we express, and reading that was just perfect. So I really thought we could shorten it. So the first Sunday of each month, I'm joining with some of my colleagues who are doing a theme for the whole year called The World That Works for Everyone. And the first month, last month, I talked about that the one expresses through everybody. The one expresses through all of us. And today, we're going to take that from the natural God expression to us awakening to that truth. See, because God expresses naturally, we couldn't stop that if we tried. So the one expressing through all is just a gimme. But us understanding it and awakening to our God self, now that's where our work is. Before I go any further with it, I want to tell you that even amongst my colleagues, we don't all agree what that idea of a world that works for everyone means. It's very fun to talk to other ministers and find out how do you interpret that and how do you interpret that. So I grabbed Ernest Holmes' quote, which is up here. And this is what he says: the purpose of life is to live, to fully express our nature. We are not here to save the world. If we were here to save the world, we wouldn't know how to do it. Yeah. We are here to, I can just hear his voice, we wouldn't know how to do it. We are here to fully express ourselves, not to be rewarded or to get to heaven. We are not here to save the world. The world is all right. A lot of people don't believe that, but it is. We are not here to justify God. We are here to express a self-expression of happiness and peace. This thing about saving the world is where the colleagues of mine, where we all come into a little bit different view of it. Because some people hear this idea of a world that works for everyone, that means we have to go out and save the world. What me and some others believe is that we're not here to save the world. We're here to express the best God self that we possibly can. So when you hear a world that works for everyone, what I want you to know is we're not talking about saving the world. As the year goes by, I will unfold more and more and more of that. Today we're focusing on us awakening to our humanity. To our spirituality, as I said, our humanness, waking up to that. Ralph Waldo Emerson, one of the men who very much influenced Ernest Holmes. Some of you are going to read a whole lot about him in the upcoming Roots class. But he said, every person, of course he wrote in the 1800s, he said man, but I'm just going to change it. Every person is a doorway through which the infinite passes into the finite, through which God becomes human, through which the universal becomes individual. That means you. Think of it. Just picture it for a minute in your head. Every person is a doorway through which the infinite becomes finite, through which this universal presence becomes individual. Because we believe that God is not afar, separate from us. We believe that God is the presence, the one source that made everything. And the way it makes it is by becoming it. So imagine yourself as a doorway through which you are letting the infinite come through. You are making it welcome to move through you day in and day out. Now let's talk about the word magnificence. Because I know, based on my own experience, based on teaching classes, and based on my counseling practice, that a lot of people have a really, really hard time saying, I am magnificent. Woo! I bet you even some of you sitting right now feel a little bit tightness in your body. I am magnificent. I'm sure that we have all done things as human beings that we didn't feel was so magnificent. I can make you a list, and I'm sure you all could. If we were in a workshop right now, I'd say break out your paper, break out your pencil, and write down all those self-judgments that you thought was not so magnificent about yourself. We all have them, right? Can you see some of this?
Yes.
Is there anybody here who feels like they've always known they were magnificent, they've never doubted it? Because you need to come up here. We've all had those very human moments of not feeling it. But remember, my topic today is about spiritual magnificence, not necessarily human magnificence. Spiritual magnificence. The good news for us is that if we remember over and over and over and over and over that spirit is first cause, that one source is the first cause of everything. If we can keep that in our head, and when we put our attention on that the Spirit is our first cause, we put our attention there, we put our consciousness there, we put our effort there, that then that first cause, that Spirit, that source, that God, begins to move through our doorway. Begins to move through us with ease and with grace. It begins to inform our choices as humans. It begins to lead our choices as humans. So now our humanity starts to look much more magnificent. But it's because we're letting Spirit lead. We're letting God lead. And then we make that place where to come right through. This is not about inflated egos. This is not about being self-centered. This is not about narcissism at all. Matter of fact, you're going to find out it's just the opposite. I like to play with this idea in my head and I wonder if everybody right now, if I can just wiggle my nose like Bewitched did, and have the power to change something. If I could get every human being on this planet right now, today, to know their spiritual magnificence. You went there ahead of me, right? What would our world be like? What would our world be like if every single person... By the way, that's what we do when we're praying, though, right? We pray to know that truth every day. I dream a genie. If every single person right now on the planet was to wake up to their spiritual magnificence, the things like self-centeredness and narcissism and ego control would actually go away. There's a whole bunch of religious teachings, I'm sorry to say, that want to control you and tell you how dare you believe that you are spiritually magnificent. But I happen to believe that that's exactly what's caused the troubles in our world. It's caused the fighting. It's caused the really dysfunctional relationships. Think about it for a minute. It's because I think I got to get something from somebody else. There's not enough good to go around, so I'm going to fight you for mine. There's not enough love, so I got to make you love me. So say so many stupid love songs. That's how I really feel. You know? All that stuff that looks like fighting for pieces of earth and just so much dysfunction. I can give all of this, but I'm sure you've already had it. Comes because we don't think that Spirit is right where we are. I mean, you may have to contemplate that. I don't have to contemplate it. I can totally see that that's where the troubles come from. So the inflated egos come because our humanness is trying so hard to puff up. Our humanness is trying so hard to be something more. But all the while, there's like this little voice inside going, I want to express through you, just let me out. I want to be your doorway. Just let me come through your doorway and I'll show you how magnificent you are and you won't have to puff up anymore. You won't have to fight anymore. You won't have to try to get somebody to love you anymore. Are you with me on that? By letting that spiritual God, whatever we call that thing, come through us, all that other stuff stops. All the self-aggrandizement can stop. So when I wonder how that world can change, I see that the destructive behaviors cease. I see that as we gain self-esteem and self-respect because we know who we are as Spirit, then our self-esteem rises, our self-respect rises. I don't know about you, but when I respect myself, I do a much better job at respecting you. When my self-esteem or my self-respect is tempered